What up, y'all? What up? We locked into the B.O.T, the Black Owned Tour. Lock in. Digiglobal now.
So, bot, what is that?
The B.O.T. I came up with it because, the most important thing I feel in our life today is about being black owned. Uh, and when I say that, um, I wanted to take it on a tour. And so nobody ever looked at it because doing technology, I deal with AI, which is artificial intelligence, augmented reality, some things, and basically the bot is connected to technology and black owned. And the only way I saw touching the people was being a magnet, and that's being on tour. And so my whole thing was, your network is your net worth. And so we want to build more black owners in the market.
So, um, in the first year of the recap of the bot, what kind of markets have you touched?
So far, we went to Miami. I went to Las Vegas, tapped in with my partners Doe and Lacey. Doe works with Big U, a lot of projects. They have a restaurant in Las Vegas, very renowned restaurant, great food, fish. And also, when I went to Miami, I locked in with my man. He owns the Electric Dragon, which is a hookah spot. My man, Mr. Ian, and I know him. And just to be collective, I know Mr. Ian from Yo Gotti, Ken Folk, Kia Shine. They had a label back in the day with Yo Gotti, Kia Shine, and my man Mr. Ian. And now he owns a hookah shop, the Electric Dragon. And going back just about Doe and Lacey, I know them because they had an artist named My Shine. And at the time, I was running Interscope, and they were signed with a co-op deal with us in Interscope Zone 4. So I went to Alaska, Canada, Houston, Kansas City. I went to Little Rock. I went to probably about 8 cities, and I just went to learn about the market and seeing what our people were doing and what the economy was in the marketplace.
So, I mean, I heard a lot of music backgrounds. For people that don't really know you, can you give me just a brief stint of maybe what you did?
Well, I like to make it brief, but it's not brief. 24 years in the business of music since 1996. Originally from Los Angeles, and it goes further than that because, I used to pop lock. So the people you see, Bugaloo Shrimp, Heckle and Jekyll, Domino, Handyman, Ice T, even were people that I used to frequent with in my earlier years, just being in the hip hop business. And then later on, I got into the business of marketing and promotions. I was actually a rapper, had a studio, but rapping wasn't my thing. I ended up throwing a party,
You
and
were a rapper?
yeah, I used to be a rapper, man. I had this song called "Just a Touch" with a little E40, a little E40 cadence. Just spitting game. At the time too, I was hustling, so really rapping and hustling is just the same thing we see today. A young man just trying to, get out exposure's expression.
What year is this?
This is probably like 1997. I was trying to rap, trying to get in the game, and I was going back and forth from here to LA. And then I tapped in with Nino and Wicked. My best friend, Van, who just passed last year, put me in the game. And one thing was the first people that we were producing when I came to Atlanta as actual production on records was Ghetto Mafia. And so that's when I first tapped in to just producing.
So, from the producing aspect, did you continue producing, or did you, tap into any other types of
Yeah, I mean,
music
I'm
business?
fully in the music business. Like, so I have producers, all the time. I've always had producers. I connected dots with different artists. But my main thing, we threw a party. And when I threw this party, it was a club that just opened out here called Club Flavors on Memorial Drive. And I threw a house party though, and everybody was talking about, man, yeah, I hear you. I'm going to Club Flavors, and it was the first time that I started passing out flyers. Now I was hustling, but it made so much sense because I had a product in my hand, and then I kind of enhanced it. I went up to LaFace Records and told them like, I'll pass your CDs out for free.
LaFace, like
Yeah,
the baby
LaFace. Like,
face,
yeah,
LaFace.
my homegirl, Shanti Doss. Shout out to my boy Tone Henderson. I think Digiglobal, I met Tone Henderson.
Hmm.
Also, Chelsea Gray and my boy Randall, who's a big part of my story. Uh, I was working for LaFace. I just go up there for free, get their CDs, posters, tapes, and I go out and pass them out for free. Because at the time, I had an internship as well with Hot 97, and I was an intern for a dude named Shaka Zulu.
Shaka Zulu,
Yeah.
Ludacris Shaka Zulu.
Yeah, DTP. It's a major story in that too. But just in the beginning of time, that's where I was with that. I was interning, and I was also, as an intern, I was out promoting, because I was in the hustle space. I had to hustle.
So fast forward, um, it seems like you like to touch a lot of these markets. Did that like is that something that you kind of did, with a lot of these different labels or?
Well, let me put it in this perspective, because I'm a teacher now, I'm an educator as well, just when it comes to business and, different avenues. So I give this story, where, you know, it's the hustler's recipe. And as you see, that's what that is. So basically, what you have to find is a niche. And a lot of times we look at money. But for me, traveling and networking gave me what I needed, and that was actually my money. It wasn't about the funds so much. I needed that as a tool. But me going into the market and building a network, building my data book, building my database allowed me to create my own network. And so your network creates your network. So I would travel everywhere and meet as many people as possible. And what I understood that as I teach my students, see, I have the information. And since I have the information, that's what I'm paid for.
So fast forward to the success of the different artists that you've worked with. I want to get into now, you know, and just talk about how you see a lot of different things going on in society and in life, right now. What do you what's your okay, boom. What's your take now on like the Atlanta music scene?
Well, I really want to go over just maybe a couple of, this, so we don't go too fast forward. But I've actually worked on uh, the first set, which created Atlanta. And when I say that, the new independence of Atlanta, the new independency of Atlanta. And when the face closed down, it was a subject term when Master P was out. People were starting to build independent labels. And I thought it was a great thing because at the end of the day, you're putting out 50,000 copies, you're selling it for $7, you're making $350,000 on your own.
Right.
And at that point in time, it was a group out of Scottsdale by way of a guy that I promoted named Mr. Koo, who had a song called Born Threat. And I have to mention that because that was like my first opportunity, one of my first opportunities, which turned me into getting an internship at Patchwork. And Patchwork is where everybody recorded. And that's why I started building a lot of relationships with a lot of major artists, a lot of major people in the game, was through an internship. And that goes again from my statement before. I wasn't being paid, so it wasn't about the money. It was about my network. And so during that time, Atlanta wasn't really pop, wasn't built all the way out yet. And so people were networking. You had, groups that were trying to put their business together. And at that time, I ended up building a reputation for myself and ended up promoting this kid, Pastor Troy, with this song called Ain't No More Play in GA. And during that time, there was an independent distributor here in Atlanta called Southern Music Distribution. And this was the only independent distributor that was located in Atlanta. But what happened was there was Selecto Hits in Memphis, and there was also Southwest Wholesale that was in Houston. And see, that was the pipeline for independent music selling. There was also ARC, shout out to Judy Jones, in Ohio. Now, here goes the breakdown. You needed a relationship with all the distributors. You need a relationship, you know, in the marketplace through retail. So my whole thought process, let me go through all these markets and create that platform for Atlanta. And so I took Ain't No More Playing GA and I took it through Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee. I started a route with just promoting that, you know, and then I did a segment where a partner of mine from Scottsdale tapped into me, and he had a group called A Damn Shame, and he was like, "I'm gonna pay you 4,500. I want you to go to 4 or 5 cities." I'm like, states, and I'm like, "That's 15 cities. Like, why would I do that? I'm only gonna make no money."
Right.
But I went anyway. And the reason why I went is because I wanted to collect the information. Because in my bottom line, it was like, if I can get 5 people to pay me $4,500, then that's $22,000 a month. And I'm talking about '98. You know, that's a different type of money back then. You know, most cats today making 25,000 a month is great. You know, great money, great business. But the biggest object and what I want to talk about is marketing and understanding the scale when they say, "Hey, I'm going to build a market ratio." Atlanta today is worth $9 billion in the entertainment industry. So you got Pastor Troy, you got these independents. I think A Damn Shame, shout out to Brian Gotti, B.O.T, Trump Tight. They sold 45,000 copies independently. So he was the first person I know of that did 300,000. He took that system and said, "Hey, we're gonna do this again." So waiting on a new album. That's when Kylie Park came, and it came with I Did Whistle While You Twerk. Same system, same cities. That record, we don't have to talk about it. Went #1, but he didn't own the rights to the record. But he still got a deal, which is a boutique deal through Interscope Records as a producer. And this is one thing Jimmy Iovine conveyed in doing his business propositions, because he gave a profit share. And so from that point, I saw the whole step and how to do it. And then I got an opportunity by getting a cassette tape, made a call, ended up getting some product. And the guy kept telling me he was going to be the biggest thing ever. And I ended up going on the road with him. And while I went on the road, I ended up promoting the guys called Jim Crow. And in that group was Polo the Don, and it was Jazzy Faye. And Holla at a Player If You See Me in the Street. That was the name of their single going back. But if you look at Jazzy Faye, we look at Polo the Don, they both had the boutique labels in Atlanta market, which was Show Enough and Zone 4. Okay? Now, this is how the story breaks down. I ended up doing DTP, and that's how, you know, Shaka came back to me after being an intern. He knew what I was doing with his independent distributor and said, "Hey, I want you to promote Fantasy." Now, I had actually been on the road with Cash Money for 2 years during that time promoting all these artists. And finally, when I finally came home, you know, people weren't really buzzing on that because they were still locked down with Master P. Right. And then what ended up happening was I went over to a partner of mine, Greg Street's house, and we used to have these VH-Lite tapes. And I popped in the high video, and his you know, he used to have the DVD. He was balling if he had the DVD connected to the TV. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He used to have this big wood chair in his house, man. I used to always love sitting. It was a real wood chair, like came right out of a tree. And I remember sitting down, and I popped the video in, and he came over. He was watching the video, and he said to me, he said, "Yo," he said, "Man, this thing is hot." I said, "Yeah, you know, I know you got a relationship with P. I don't know the relationship P and Percy has with Brian, and that's who I call him, Brian and Ronald." I said, "But whatever it is, this is something that's going to, you know, this is something we need to move on." And I'm going to tell you to this day, I never believed it. That night, we know Greg Street, he goes to the radio, he plays records like 6-7 times back to back, unless you know you got a cosign. So that's what happened on the high record. I'm a paper chaser. You got your block on fire. All of a sudden, I get a call Wednesday, and I hear, "Wardy, we signed 30 million. I'm flying you down to New Orleans." And it was just different. I'm like, because this was the biggest deal in the country. Right. Nobody's ever seen a deal like this.
Even to this day.
Period. To this day. Yeah. He's worth the most in the business.
He sold the most records.
And I understand his system. It's because I was on the road with him for 2 years. So when people reluctantly was looking at, Casper has his actual brand, he's working with Cash Money, they end up getting this deal. But the crazy part, everybody in the whole industry was in New Orleans during that weekend, and I met everybody.
Hmm.
And that's when I came back, I knew I had it.
That's the
And
black book.
this is the craziest part, how strong a system is. It's about having a business, but if you're not at your business, is your business still going to function? That's when you have a real business. And I knew I had some trouble I had to deal with. Hank Johnson was my lawyer at the time, and he was a really great person in my life later on. And I went to the Source Awards, and that was the first time that I ever felt like I actually made it, because my partners came to me. They brought me a cup with the chronic leaf on it, and they said, "Look, you got to have this cup to go to this party tonight." I was already amazed that Sprite flew me to LA. This is different. I'm living a different life. I'm having a different feel. I'm feeling different. And that night, I ended up meeting Dr. Dre at Eminem at the Playboy Mansion, and I had a long conversation. The party was ridiculous. I met Jimmy Iovine, and when I came home, I just, I was there and nobody else was there. So I felt like, I'm in that space. I'm there. And I knew I had to do something. I ended up having to turn myself in. And this is another reason why I want to talk about the Black Owned Tour. And I had to go do like a 16-month, year and a half stunt. And I don't talk about that to my kids. But one thing I don't talk about is that I had a great team and system. And when I went away, I ended up, I went away for that point in time. I lost contact, of course, with Cash Money, but I put them in the game, and Bling Bling and all that came out, and they were off to the races. But I had so many pictures with them in Ozone magazine, so people were seeing me when I was behind bars, like, "Yo, I just seen you in this magazine. I just see," and I kept my business going while I was behind bars, and I ended up making uh, close to a little bit over two 200,000, and I couldn't spend any money. I took care of my kids while I was behind there, which is the most important thing to me. And so we got to learn about putting businesses together that are not just applicable when you're there,